Another day, another mug. This is £1 from Co-op and it's got cats on it. We love it. Hi, welcome to my little bookish corner of the internet. My name's Harriet. Today I thought it'd be fun to do some wholesome reads. Now I don't have a lot of these books on me because I am living at my partner's house through the lockdown, so I don't have access to all of my books, but I will be putting like a little picture up here somewhere, or maybe this side, I'm not sure yet. Yeah, so unfortunately I don't have the books with me, but I can show you the books in some way or another. Okay, so yeah, wholesome reads. Basically, the idea behind this list is books that made me feel really nice and cozy, made me feel good. Some of them may have some slightly sadder themes in there, but that doesn't take away from like the overall wholesome feels that you get from it. Yeah, so if you're in the mood for something nice and pretty easy to read, this will be the list for you, and I hope you find some books that you're interested in. Okay, so the first thing on this list is more an author than anything else, and that is Jane Austen. I've got one book I can show you, which is Emma. I recently just finished this a couple days ago, or by the time you're watching this it'll be maybe a week ago, and I loved it. Anything by Jane Austen to me just feels super wholesome. It's kind of like a slice of life but set in a different time period, which is really cool, so you feel like you're getting into the shoes of other characters from different times. At the moment I have read Emma, Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, and I'm hoping in 2021, which you'll see in an upcoming video, to read all of her works. There's balls, there's romance, there's lots of gossip, so it's all just very wholesome and nice to read about. There are of course some heartbreaking parts of the novels, but nothing too dark, so they're all pretty easy reading. Yeah, if you're looking for like a nice classic to read, I'd recommend anything by Jane Austen. Persuasion's my absolute favourite, but Emma almost topped it. Emma was really, really good, but it is considerably thicker than Persuasion. Persuasion is like half, if not less, of this book. So maybe start with that one, see how you get on, and if you like it you can move on to the other ones. The next book that I wanted to talk about is called The Guest Cat by Takashi Hiradi. I'm probably not saying that right, I'm very sorry. This book follows a couple who are in their 30s, kind of as they live out each day in their little rented cottage in Tokyo. And one day a cat decides to visit them and continues to do so each day, and with each visit it brings something new to their lives. So when we first get to meet them, they aren't really communicating very well with each other, they don't have a lot to say to each other, but this cat coming to see them each day gives them something to talk about and gives them like a little bit of sunshine into their lives each day. This book is really, really short and very bittersweet. There are some parts in this that are a little bit sad and a little bit dark, but that also depends on how you view the book and how you read it. If you kind of look at it at face value as just a story of a couple and a cat, you'll miss some of the deeper meanings that I feel are put into this book. It's almost like an emotional and kind of spiritual experience reading this book. It really makes you stop and take a second to think about your life, the way you live it, the different things in the world, nature, animals, and it also taught me to appreciate the small things in life as well as life and death. Death is something that I personally struggle really hard with reading about, talking about. So this was actually kind of a hard thing for me to read, but I found it really informative, and the more that I read it, the easier it got for me, so that's really good. Yeah, the book in itself is just beautiful. It's written beautifully and I highly recommend it. I think it's only like 100 and something pages long, maybe 200, so it won't take you that long to read, but it'll give you a really big experience if you want it to. If you just want to read it at face value, then it will definitely be a very cute story about a cat. Okay, the next book is something that I've read quite recently. I read it this year, and that is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I hinted at my partner just before Christmas that maybe this would be something that I'd be interested in reading because I've seen the Studio Ghibli film and it's one of my favourite Ghibli films. I think it's fantastic. It's really whimsical and fun and kind of weird. But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to read the original works, which is the book. And he bought it for me and I read it quite soon after. I think he read it in January. It is a very fantastical and whimsical tale about a eldest sister called Sophie, and she lives with her mother and her other sisters in this magical world where there are witches and wizards, and she somehow ends up trapped in a curse. This kind of curse she can't tell anyone about, so it's going to be really hard for her to figure out a way to break it. So she kind of goes on an adventure. She meets loads of different characters. To me, this was a story of friendship, forgiveness, acceptance, and also very heavily focused on love, but not necessarily in the ways that you'd expect and not the characters that you would expect. Overall, it was just a really nice, fun read, nothing too heavy. It is a children's YA kind of book, so it's very easy to get through. Again, quite a short one. Yeah, if you liked the film, I feel like you would really love the books. The only thing that I didn't love was Sophie is quite a cynical character, which usually I'm totally on board with, but for some reason it didn't quite hit me right this time around. I'm not sure why. But yeah, just something to note. The next one I read last year, and obviously I haven't reviewed it on my channel before or spoken about it, not even on my Bookstagram yet, because I didn't have it back then, but it is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This was a really interesting book. So it follows the lives of various different characters from various different backgrounds, different sexualities as well, and it basically follows how their lives play out and also how they interlink with each other. There are some slightly challenging themes in here, but I found that the main message was really important. There's a lot in here about sexuality and acceptance of yourself. It's just overall kind of emotional, but very wholesome and easy to read. It's also written in a really unique way, which I hadn't seen before, and I really enjoyed it. It's good to kind of break up the norm sometimes. It made it really interesting for me. And then, of course, I would recommend Grimm's Brothers fairy tales and the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales too. If you've read them before or you watch any Disney films, then they'll be slightly familiar to you, which is always nice to read. If you're in kind of a reading slump, you don't know what to go for, you can pick up these stories because they're so short. Just read one or two and it might help to break you out of that reading slump. There's also no pressure then because you don't have to deal with any sequels, series, trilogies. It's just that one story. It's nice and short. They're really easy to get through and just great if you don't want any commitment. Full disclosure, I haven't read all of the stories because they are some thick collections. So I don't really have like a standout favourite, but I do like how they are slightly darker than the Disney adaptations. I just find that really interesting and fun to read. And lastly, I'm going to make things very obvious here. Read a series that you love. If it's a short series, a long series. For me, that would be The Lord of the Rings, including The Hobbit, which I'm going to read one day. Not yet, but in 2021, I definitely want to read The Hobbit. Earthsea, Twilight, I reread that last year. I want to reread Earthsea this year, but I'm going to hold off. I only finished it this year, so it would be really bad if I reread it, but maybe in December. That would be like a cool thing to do around Christmas time. I just find that those books are really transportive and very wholesome. You recognise the characters, you recognise the main storylines, so you don't have to be so focused in on that. You can appreciate the other things in the story, such as the writing, character development, relationships. The books that I mentioned have got loads of great adventures in them, and I'm sure the series that you love do too. You don't even have to read the whole series. Read your favourite book in that series if you want to, or just the first one, just the last one. I think that's just a great way to feel really good about yourself and feel good about your reading. I feel like, especially with the social media side of the book community, like Bookstagram and BookTube, there's this big pressure to read all the new releases and be up to date and read all the time. But reading, for me, obviously it's different for everyone, but for me it feels like something I want to do because I want to do it. I'll read when I want, I'll read what I want. If it doesn't make me happy and I'm not enjoying it, I'll stop, I'll move on to something else. Books that make you feel good and that are wholesome will always make you want to read more. So that's why I thought I'd do this list. It's just a couple recommendations to you for books that you might love, you can at least look into and see if it'd be something you're interested in, if you're not sure what to go for. And none of these are super new either. And I do think it's nice sometimes just to separate yourself from that side of the internet and just read what you want to go for. It doesn't matter if it was written a year ago or 50 years ago or more. If you want to read it, go for it. Yes, that's my little list of wholesome reads. I hope you saw some books on here that you recognise and some that you don't, that you might want to look into. Let me know down below what kind of books you like reading, that make you happy, any that you revisit or want to revisit this year. And if you have any recommendations for me, then let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, I hope you're having a really lovely day and enjoy the rest of it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!